Welcome back to Becoming a Published Author is Fun. Now, if you don't understand that, check out episode 8 and you will understand. Today we are in episode 32 and we are just talking about you. Now, you probably like that subject usually. Well, we want to get down to the itty gritty here, so to speak, about you knowing yourself. You might think you know yourself, but have you ever sat back and really analyzed yourself? And this is what I'm going to go through with you today. Don't just pass this by and say, "Oh, I don't need that." I would beg to differ. Knowing yourself as it relates to writing is a very critical, essential thing for you to do. So let's get started. So, why? That's your speaking of motive here is why. Why be a writer? Different people want to write for different reasons. Now, I wanted to be a writer from the time I was at least a teenager, maybe earlier. As a child, I would watch movies, TV shows, maybe even read a book. And it would fill my mind up with these stories. And I would then imagine or reimagine those stories. The hero somehow ended up being me. I played the role, I always played the role of the hero. Never the villain and never the supporting cast, always the hero. And you might have done the same thing. It's normal. So one of the things is that in my life, I started out having a great imagination, liking to tell stories, and so I started wanting to, as I grew older, I started wanting to write. I loved books. I read them, a lot of books. Some of them were considered beyond my years, but I enjoyed them and actually could tell the story and even apply some truths that were involved in those stories, and at a young age. So I gravitated towards writing almost from the beginning. As I grew older and got in my teen years, then I started wanting to be a writer. I really started thinking serious about it. But it wasn't until I was a young adult that I decided to become an author. Actually, I was at least, let's see, after I was in the service, I was in the Navy, and so when I got out of the service, I got a job, and I wanted to be an author, so I found this course that was out there, and I signed up for it, and there was a monthly fee that I paid, a subscription, and I was starting to learn. It was a good way to learn, and it's probably one of the reasons why I offer subscription courses today, is because I had a pleasant experience in the course that I took. Unfortunately, my regular job that I had, I got laid off, and as a result, I had to drop out of that course. I had to drop out of a lot of different things, and get down to, it didn't last that long, but it was enough that I had no money coming in, and I was not able to continue on with that course. Well, once I got back on my job back, I had other expenses I had to make up and things like this nature, and so I never really got back into that course. What I did enter into is called the School of Hard Knocks, and I've talked about that before, and I don't want to go into an in-depth thing on it again, other than to tell you it was a waste of time. I spent years, decades in that school, learned a lot of stuff. A good share of it was wrong. And so I had to unlearn that when I actually started learning the proper way. When I got saved in 1973 at the age of 30, God didn't say, "Okay, I'm calling you to write." No. You know what he did? He started working on me. as a Christian. And he looked back at those 30 years preceding that, and he started working on me as an individual. He cleaned me up. He got me involved in the church and doing this and doing that, learning to be a Christian. And then once I got that down, and I'm still learning, by the way, but I kept learning and learning, and at the age of 60, that's when he called me. How did he call me? It was through I was doing a Bible study, and I was actually reading in Genesis chapter 6, and which is about Noah and the flood. And suddenly I recognized that what God had provided there was sort of that which you might call the skeleton, or a pattern. If you will, you could even call it a plot. But he didn't give us all the details. We don't need those details. What God shows us in the Bible is what we need to know. And he doesn't bother with the speculation. He doesn't give us the backstory, so to speak. Well, he has something to tell us. He doesn't beat around the bush. He puts it in his word. And so, but when I looked at it, I saw that what he had prepared here was a skeleton. And there was a lot of backstory there that could be filled in by a good imagination. And so I started writing, and my very first book was called Refuge, the Genesis Chronicles. And it was about Noah, but not directly about him. My primary character is a man by the name of Jared, who, it's a tragic story. He ends up dying in the flood. But it's how he worked with Noah. Noah was his uncle. And this is all backstory, fictional. But by using his fictional character, I was able to tell the story of Noah and the ark, and the kind of attitude that existed around Noah at the time, the disbelief, the mockery, and things of this nature. And so I got into that, and I enjoyed it. And guess what? After I published that book, I wrote another one. This was about Adam and Eve and them in the garden and getting kicked out. And then, well, what happened after they got kicked out of the garden? The Bible doesn't tell us, does it? I tell it in this story called, I think it's called Adam's Chronicles. Neither Refuge or Adam's Chronicles are currently published. I may redo them someday and republish them, perhaps under another name. But those two books actually got it united later on, and I added a ton of other material, came up with Perish, the World That Was. So, which started a 6-book series. But the thing is this, I all started up here, why I wanted to be a writer. And it started with, first of all, a desire, and then secondly, a calling, and then finally, an enabling. And enabling, it can be, most people think of an enabling as a one-time thing. I think that it's a continuous thing. There is a one-time, there's one moment in time when you feel that God's really enabled you to do it. But it doesn't stop there. He continues to work with you and guide you. And that's all part of enabling. So why? Why do you want to be a writer? Did God call you? I mean, he doesn't call every Christian writer to be a Christian writer. Let me change that. Every writer who is a Christian is not necessarily called to be a Christian writer. A Christian writer, in my understanding of it, is someone who, they don't necessarily have the gospel in their story, but they present a Christian worldview that is designed to pull the people in, perhaps to the Bible. One of the highest compliments I ever got was somebody read my book and she said, I had to go to the Bible to see if what was there was true or fictional. Well, that was fine with me. So that is something that really was a compliment to me. and I've never forgotten it. But it's that's what a Christian writer does. A Christian who is a writer, maybe not called to be a writer in that sense, but maybe God called you to write, does want you to write, but not necessarily in the sense that I just got done describing. Maybe you were going to write children's books, picture books. Maybe it's, I know of one young man who just recently published a book. It's what I would call a picture book. It's actually a travel guide, and he did a good job. I've downloaded it and looked at it, and who knows, I might go to these places that someday that he has talked about. But the thing is that impressed me was he has an ability, and particularly an ability in photography. And so this is something that he has motivated, and I have not talked with him about it, so I don't know what his motivation is. But you can see part of it is to show people that he's showing them his skill at photography, but he's also showing them, providing useful information that the reader can take and use for themselves. So, and that, by the way, can be a motive in itself, to be useful, to be helpful to others, to help them, not just to entertain them, but maybe to help them and guide them in a particular direction. So, what is your motive? Why? Why? And why is it important for you to know your why? Because someday you're going to probably hit the wall. And when you do, you're going to need to not have that motivating factor in your life so that you know how to do it. So next one is what genre are you in? Now you can actually write in multiple genres. And I would have, if you've already started writing, just take a sheet of paper and start writing down every category, which is another term that could be used for genre. Every category that you can think of. I have books out there that are historical fiction, adventure, maybe romance, different things. Even mystery can be in there. So there's different things that you can you might find in your one book. They may not be the number one genre, but they can be a genre, and therefore that gives you an area where you can market your books. And also it will help direct you in how you write your book. What is your goal? They say you should have a short-term, a medium-term, and a long-term goal. And you can spread them out over time, all the way up to 5 years if you want. So, do you know how to write? That's a good question to ask yourself, because if you are going to be writing a book, you want to put the best version of yourself out there. And so if you don't know if you don't know how to write, then you need to learn how to write. And that is where Basic Authors Training comes in. It's this writing course that I developed, and it teaches you, it's a 12-month course, it teaches you how to write. And you can pay for it up front, or you can pay it on a monthly basis for 12 months. But perhaps you know how to write. You look at that and say, well, I know how to write. Well, then you wouldn't be interested in a writing course. You don't need it if you already know. So you drop down to ministry publishing. If you are a Christian and you are serving in your local church, the church that you attend, or other local churches, maybe not only the one you attend, but others as well, this is something in which you can qualify for. I don't care if you're pushing a broom, preaching a sermon, you're a preacher, evangelist, missionary, you work in the nursery, you're a groundskeeper, you're a janitor, you work in an office, whatever job you are in qualifies you to be to sign up for ministry publishing. That's also for 12 months, but it focuses on getting you published and in helping you doing the marketing. It's true that your marketing design is uh, completely your responsibility. It's always been the case, still is the case. Well, actually, it hasn't always been. If you go back far enough, it was the case of the publisher. But as they have come, then it became the case of the author. And nowadays, that's pretty much it. Unless you're a VIP, the traditionals will. If you're a VIP, the traditionals might even do all of your marketing. But if you're not a VIP, they're not even probably going to look at you. And if you're a self-publisher, you're going to do your own marketing. They will provide you at a cost different tools. If you're an indie publisher, such as myself, I will also provide you tools. Most of them are free. In fact, right now, all of them are free. I'll put you in another tool that there is a fee, but it's actually passed on to your person who buys your book, and that is to put you in the bookstore, to put you in my blog, and in my posts. And so all this is something that you, and through Ministry Publishing, might consider. But if you don't know how to write, you need this first, which is actually this combined with the writing course part. So once you've gotten that done, now we move on to, are you willing to? And I got some things down here. Are you willing to do the work? If you want to be an author and you expect to sit down and just start typing it out without maybe even just picking up a mic and reading the story into that mic and letting the book write it for you, using AI or something like that, you're not going to, you might put something out with AI, but it won't be you. It might be like you. It might know how you think and how you talk and things of this nature. But AI is fake. It's a fake you. It's a fake story. I'll make a real quick story here of a woman who is a famous author. I won't mention her name. A book came out in her name. It was written in her style. It was even in her genre, I believe. It was not by her. She found out about it, and it was written by somebody using AI. AI can be used for good, and it can be used for bad. Somebody was trading off of her name. They were getting the profits. She was getting nothing. That's wrong. And so I will teach you about AI, by the way. But are you willing to do the work yourself? And that includes research, that includes the writing, that includes the whole gamut of being an author. Okay, are you willing to take the time? It takes time to write a book. It takes time to do research. It takes time to do to find a picture for your cover. It takes time to write a book and get it published. And then finally, are you willing to learn? If you're taking this course up here, then you need to be willing to learn. But whether you take that course or not, or any course, you need to always have a good learning attitude. Are you willing to learn to get better, to do better, to perform better? Not just as an author, but as a publisher. Now, if you're going through me, I do the publishing for you, and I will do some of the marketing for you. But you still need to learn. If you're wise, you watch what your publisher is doing, you watch what your marketer is doing, and you learn. It will help you in the long run. That's it for today. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.